My parents refused to watch my twins, while I was rushed into emergency surgery, saying they already had concert tickets with my sister. From my hospital bed, I hired a nanny, cut off every dollar of financial help I'd been giving them. And 2 weeks later, they showed up at my door. Help everyone. My name is Rebecca Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and the day I was rushed into emergency surgery, my parents refused to watch my 6-year-old twins because they already had concert tickets. Not just any concert, they were going with my younger sister. Mom actually sighed into the phone and said, "Rebecca, you're always creating emergencies." I doubled over in pain, so intense, I nearly dropped my phone. This isn't planned. I'm in an ambulance. The doctors think it's my appendix. I just need someone to pick up Emma and Ethan from school. There was silence. Then Dad got on the phone. "We already paid for these tickets. I can't lose that money." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I'm asking you to help your grandchildren." Dad answered without hesitation. "Ask someone else." Then he hung up, lying in the back of that ambulance, with paramedics preparing pain medication. I finally understood something. I had spent 12 years carrying people who would never carry me. 2 weeks later, someone pounded on my front door, demanding to know why their mortgage payment had bounced. Looking back, I should have seen it much sooner. I was always the responsible daughter. My younger sister, Jessica, was 5 years younger than me. She was funny, charming, impulsive, the kind of person who somehow turned every mistake into someone else's responsibility. Mom adored her. Dad excused everything she did. If Jessica quit another job, she just hasn't found her passion. If she maxed out another credit card, young people struggle. If she forgot someone's birthday, she's just busy. Meanwhile, if I forgot to return one phone call, Mom acted as though I'd abandoned the family. After college, I became a nurse. The work wasn't glamorous. Long shifts, night duty, holiday weekends. But I loved helping people. Eventually, I became a nursing supervisor. The salary improved, so did my responsibilities. By 32, I had purchased my own home, paid off my student loans, built a comfortable life. My marriage, unfortunately, didn't survive. The divorce was painful. But thankfully, my ex-husband remained a wonderful father to our twins. We shared custody respectfully. There was never any drama. Ironically, the most difficult relationships in my life weren't with my ex. They were with my own parents. It started small. Dad retired earlier than expected. Their pension wasn't enough. Mom quietly asked, "Could you help for a few months?" Of course I could. I set up automatic payments for part of their mortgage. Then came Dad's medication. Then unexpected dental work. Then the air conditioner broke. Then Jessica lost another job. Every crisis somehow ended with my bank account solving it. I never kept score. They were my family. Whenever I tried mentioning my own expenses, Mom always smiled. "You're better with money. You can afford it." Maybe I could, but that wasn't really the point. Meanwhile, Jessica somehow always had money for vacations, concerts, designer handbags, weekend trips. Whenever I asked how, Mom laughed. She deserves to enjoy life. Apparently, so did everyone except me. Then one afternoon, I accidentally overheard something. I had stopped by my parents' house to bring groceries. They didn't know I was already inside. Jessica laughed from the kitchen. "I don't even worry about bills anymore." Mom answered, "Why would you? Rebecca always figures things out." The three of them laughed. I quietly carried the grocery bags back to my car and drove home. They never realized I'd heard them. Still, I kept helping, not because they deserved it, because I kept hoping gratitude would eventually replace expectation. It never did. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. I had just finished a 12-hour hospital shift, stopped at my twins' school to pick them up. Halfway there, a sharp pain exploded across my lower abdomen. Within minutes, I could barely stand. Another parent called 911. The emergency room physician examined me. A CT scan followed immediately. The surgeon arrived less than 15 minutes later. "Your appendix has ruptured. We need surgery." Now, my first thought wasn't about myself. It was about Emma and Ethan. School would dismiss in less than an hour. Their father was attending a business conference in another state. I grabbed my phone, called Mom, no answer. Called again. She finally picked up. "What?" "I'm at Memorial Hospital. I need surgery. I need someone to pick up the twins." Instead of concern, she sounded irritated. "Today?" "Yes. We're getting ready." "For what?" "The concert." I honestly forgot. Jessica had been talking for weeks about seeing her favorite singer. Mom sighed dramatically. "We've had these tickets for months. I understand. But this is an emergency." Dad took the phone. "You always create problems at the worst possible times." I stared at the ceiling, trying to understand whether I'd heard correctly. I'm in a hospital bed. I know, but there has to be someone else. There isn't. I need you. He paused, then calmly said, we're not missing this. The line went dead. I lay there in complete silence. One of the nurses gently touched my shoulder. Do you have anyone else? I slowly nodded. I'll figure it out. Within 20 minutes, the hospital social worker helped me contact a licensed emergency childcare agency. A professional nanny met my twins after school, stayed with them overnight, even sent me photographs showing they were smiling. Complete strangers showed my children more compassion than my own parents. The surgery was successful. Recovery, less so. Lying in my hospital bed that second night, I opened my banking app, scrolled through every automatic payment, mortgage assistance, utilities, insurance premiums, prescription reimbursements, monthly grocery transfers. One by one, I canceled every single one, then quietly closed my phone. For the first time in years, I felt strangely peaceful. 2 weeks later, I was finally recovering at home. The twins were building a blanket fort in the living room. Someone suddenly began pounding on my front door. Hard, again and again. Sometimes, the people who call you a burden never realize how much of their own life you've been quietly carrying. As someone knocked harder and harder on my front door, 2 weeks after my surgery, I already knew this visit wasn't about my health. It was about everything I'd finally stopped paying for. The pounding continued. 3 loud knocks, then another, then Dad's voice. Rebecca, open this door. I looked through the peephole. Mom stood beside him with her arms crossed. Jessica leaned against the porch railing, scrolling through her phone as if she had somewhere better to be. I took a deep breath, then opened the door. Before I could say a word, Mom started, why didn't the mortgage payment go through? Dad held up his phone. The bank says it was canceled. Jessica added, my car insurance payment bounced too. I looked at all 3 of them. Not one person asked how I was recovering. Not one person asked how the surgery had gone. Not one person asked how Emma and Ethan were doing. I quietly answered, I canceled them. Dad frowned. You what? I canceled every payment. Mom looked stunned. You can't do that. I already did. She stepped into the house without being invited. Rebecca, your father and I depend on that money. I folded my arms. I depended on you. Silence. Dad shook his head. That's different. No, it isn't. When I was lying in an ambulance, asking someone to pick up your grandchildren, you told me to find someone else. Mom looked uncomfortable. We had plans. I was having emergency surgery. You recovered because doctors operated on me, not because my parents helped. Jessica finally looked up from her phone. You're seriously doing all this over one concert? I laughed. The sound surprised even me. No, I'm doing this over 12 years. 12 years? 12 years of paying bills. 12 years of solving problems. 12 years of being treated like the family wallet. Dad's face hardened. We never forced you. No, you just expected it. I walked into the kitchen, returned with a folder. Inside were bank statements, mortgage transfers, utility payments, insurance receipts, every payment I'd made over the previous 7 years. I placed them on the dining table. Mom stared at the stack. I never realized. I know. You never asked. Jessica slowly flipped through the pages. Her smile disappeared. You paid my insurance for 3 years. My phone? Yes. My rent deposit? Yes. She whispered. Mom told me. She was helping. I looked at Mom. She couldn't meet my eyes. Dad quietly sat down. His shoulders suddenly looked much older. I honestly didn't know it had become this much. I know, because every time I helped, you treated it like it had always been your money. Emma and Ethan walked into the room. Daddy's on video. They held out the tablet. My ex-husband smiled from the screen. Hey, he immediately noticed my parents. I'll call back. No, it's okay. He looked at me. You sure? I smiled. I'm finally saying everything I should have said years ago. He nodded. I'm proud of you. The twins waved goodbye, then ran back upstairs. Mom watched them disappear. They seem happy. They are. The nanny was wonderful. Dad looked confused. What nanny? The professional childcare agency. You hired strangers? I had to. Mom whispered. You could have waited. I couldn't. The surgeon wasn't going to delay emergency surgery because you wanted to attend a concert. No one had an answer. Several long minutes passed. Finally, Dad quietly spoke. I failed you. I looked at him. You failed your grandchildren. They needed family. You chose entertainment. His eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to fix this. You don't. You accept it. You change, but you don't erase it. Jessica suddenly stood. I need to say something. She looked directly at me. I didn't know. I honestly believed Mom and Dad were paying for everything. I never asked. I'm sorry. She slowly removed her car keys from her purse. I'll sell the SUV if I have to. I'll pay my own bills. I should have been doing that all along. For the first time in years, I believed her. Because there were no excuses, only responsibility. Mom finally reached across the table. I don't deserve another chance. No, you don't. But Emma and Ethan deserve grandparents. They do. So if we're ever part of their lives again, it'll be because you earned their trust, not because you're related. Dad quietly nodded. We understand. As they left, nobody argued. Nobody demanded money. Nobody accused me of being selfish. For the first time, they walked away carrying their own responsibilities. Instead of mine. Epilogue. Soft piano becomes lighter, carrying peace instead of obligation. It's been 3 years since my surgery. My parents eventually sold their oversized house and moved into a smaller place they could comfortably afford. Dad picked up part-time consulting work after retirement. Mom learned to manage their own budget for the first time in years. Jessica found steady employment. She paid off her debts herself. The first time she mailed me a birthday card, she included a handwritten note. Thank you for finally making me grow up. I still keep it. Emma and Ethan know they're grandparents now. Not because I forgot what happened, but because my parents spent years proving they had changed. They never again expected money. They never again assumed my time belonged to them. And every time they visit, they ask first, my thoughts. Looking back, the most painful part wasn't that my parents refused to help during my emergency. It was realizing they had become so accustomed to my sacrifices that they no longer saw them as sacrifices at all. Giving should always be a choice. The moment it becomes an expectation, it stops being generosity and starts becoming obligation. The day I canceled those automatic payments wasn't the day I stopped loving my family. It was the day I finally started respecting myself. And strangely enough, that was also the day my family finally learned to respect me too.